kick this off and maybe start talking a little bit about some of the stuff here. I think the big topic we've heard thrown around, Ryan, is just kind of brokerages and in the future, right? Where does my future lie? Not so much maybe, about today, but, I'm trying to make a decision about getting into real estate and what that looks like for the next 12, 24, 36 months and beyond. And so today I figured, why don't we talk a little bit about what that looks like and what people's futures are and what they should maybe be considering, when looking at brokerages, not just today, but long term, right? Because I think there's a lot more than, what's your split, right? I think you hear a lot of times, what's your split or what's your cap, right? And people just look at that and they say, oh, this is the best one. But there's so much more, right? There are tons of different brokerages with all different models. You need to find the one that's kind of suited for you. And so I thought maybe we'd start some conversation in and around that. Sound good?
Yeah, totally. And I think we can turn back the clock real quick also, just from where we've come. And I think me specifically, when I started out as a solo agent, when I got my license 10 years ago, I was with Long and Foster for about 6 months. And I went there just because that was the closest brokerage to my house and where I took my evening classes getting my license. And didn't know any better. I even through the classes, which I wonder as other people speak up, and Sam, you might know about this, they don't talk about brokerages and caps and splits and things like that when you're getting licensed, do they? You don't hear any of that, do you, Sam?
Yeah, nothing.
Right. And so, I mean, that's a huge thing that is missing in the education piece for people that are getting licensed is what questions do you need to ask to choose a brokerage? So I didn't know any better. I went with Long and Foster because it was by my house. And, lo and behold, it was okay. But then I moved over to KW with a team, and that's where we had met, Phil. And through that, I learned how KW was a really great educational brokerage. And so that was important to me at that time, and, still not necessarily paying attention to cap too much. But I did get some great education from that. And then as soon as I was educated, KW really didn't do a lot to hang on to me. So I went to a mom and pop shop because I didn't need the whole office environment, some other things. And I took the lowest cap possible to make the most money possible. But then I was sacrificing things like education and, long-term wealth building. And so I did that for a few years until we, got back together, went back to KW because we were building our team and we got a ton of value from that aspect. But again, the cap was another part of the puzzle plus business growth and what were they doing for us, and moved around from that aspect. And then what has led to what is the new age of brokerages is how can we get both? How can we get the best education possible, the best opportunity to build our wealth, long-term opportunity to help our families and others, and have some passive income? And that's what's led to EXP. And so the reality is do your homework and make sure that you're asking those questions up front. So in the future, you are actually in a great place from the get-go of building your business instead of, going through the ups and downs that we did because of lack of education mainly.
Yeah, I think there's a level of understanding each model and what you're looking for. I think part of when I started looking at brokerages, right, and we were trying to decide where to be and how to hang our license, I think about really three things, that it comes down to, right? Money, education, and leverage. Who's helping you, right? Who's helping you to achieve that next level? What type of money does it look like, and where am I getting educated? And you're right, when we look through all those, our current brokerage kind of was that perfect, it met right in the center where all those things kind of overlapped, and it was ability for us to keep as much as we can in our pocket, dispense that or dispose that to our team so that they can keep as much as possible while still getting educated by top agents in the industry and top earners in the industry, all wrapped all wrapped with the ability to leverage, and that was something, you mentioned, our old brokerage at KW, and they were great from a training aspect to kind of get us going. But I think that the flaw in their model is once you cap, it doesn't matter. You're the same. You're the same to the rest of them, whether you close 12 deals or you're closing, 100 plus deals. We were treated the same as someone who just came in and closed those 8 or 10 deals and capped. Why? Because it was the same value. To them, it was a dollar amount to them. And so we weren't really being provided additional education or opportunities to grow our team, to leverage and to figure out how to actually make this thing grow on a larger scale, And so I think a big piece is just figuring out who you want and where you want to be. I think in the next 12, 24, and 36 months is a great place to start, and say, hey, what is most important to me? And what are those things that you value?
Yeah. And when you're getting your license, you don't know. I mean, there aren't many people that are really knowledgeable for you speak with to understand how you hit the ground running in this. And I think that's what a lot of people step in the mud about, is that through, like I said, the education aspect, you're not given that knowledge. There isn't a section of the class that says, hey, this is how you pick a brokerage, and these are the things you need to look at when you're talking about starting your own business, which is crazy. But that does give, I think, a really good indication of what this industry is as a whole. It's about collecting your NVAR dues, your NAR dues, your Central Lock dues, and they don't care if you do one deal or a million deals. It doesn't matter to them, and they're not in it to make you help you grow your business. And that's what we need to do as leaders now, is teach these people for the future, knowing how quickly you can hit the ground running and be in a great place very fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that, you're right. There's a science and an art to this, right? I think when we first take the classes and we're getting our license, that's the science side. You're learning all the terms and, how to calculate some commissions and, how many, square feet are in an acre. And you're learning kind of the science of it. But you're right, Ryan. No one teaches you the art. No one teaches you what questions should you be asking, to find a broker. Where do I even start? What different brokers are there? How many are there? What's the difference between a mom and a pop and a big box like Remax or KW, or Pearson Smith, one of those things, So it is a piece of education that we want to give back here. And I think that's what we're most hoping for is, how do we help educate people to even just figure out what questions to ask? Because it's overwhelming. You start out and just trying to get your license and you're like, all right, I got my license. Now what?
Yeah. Matt asked a good question. He says, what's more important for a new agent when looking at brokerages, the name brand or the cap structure? What do you think?
That's a good one. For me personally, I never felt like the name brand meant anything. I felt like the name brand was me Inc., Ryan Inc., Matt Inc., we got some other people, David Inc., right? Massey Inc., right? If you guys are agents out there, it's about you Inc. or the team that you're on. I never felt like the brokerage represented me. I felt like they were supposed to be there to help support me, maybe provide me with some resources, point me in the right direction, kick me in the butt, pat me in the butt, and say, attaboy, go get them. But honestly, they just were really a required platform that I had to hang my license at. I didn't have the knowledge, the know-how, the time, or the education to go build my own brokerage, right? Or even start to figure that thing out. I mean, that's crazy to take all that on, right? So I was forced into having to select a brokerage. But at the end of the day, that brokerage didn't represent me, just like in any industry, right? Because again, whether you can't say KW is the best or Remax is the best or EXP is the best or Caldwell Bank or any of those things, right? They're just a name. What is represented to the client is you, right? And so I knew that I had to deliver top end value, educate my clients, keep them out of trouble, and make sure that I was providing a high level of service to them from start to finish and beyond until they are ready to buy or sell again. And so for me, big name, box name, brokerage name, it didn't matter. It just mattered initially, what service was I going to provide? Maybe you want to speak to a little bit on the back end, because I mean, numbers do matter, right? Finances do matter, but what do you think about that aspect, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it does matter sometimes in the public perspective, because I think there are a lot of people that see those signs everywhere that says Keller Williams or Remax or Caldwell Banker, and so they give it some credit. But as you just mentioned, the reality is it's you Inc. that actually gets the result. And what everyone that listens to this needs to understand is you want to let people know that you're an independent contractor and everything you do is dictated by you. It has nothing to do with that brokerage. And that's the message that you need to tell your buyers and sellers. This is all about what I can do for you based on my professional knowledge to win you deals, to negotiate on your behalf, to make sure that you're not in default of contracts, not put you in a situation where someone can sue you. The brokerage has absolutely nothing to do that. The broker, the actual person that is being overseeing that brokerage, could be someone that you want to talk to. I think that's important. You want to talk to the actual broker to find out what their response level is, what their knowledge is, how long have they been a broker. Tell me your horror stories of some crazy stuff. That might be a good question to ask, because really those are the people you're going to go to when you're in the weeds, when you don't know. And I think that's, again, not to tout us all day long, but there's a really big advantage to working with people like us that have been there, done that, because you don't have to step in that, and you have someone you can trust to go to get that knowledge to move forward with helping your clients. Yeah, I mean, every brokerage is different. This all comes down to what you want. Some people could care less about the cap and they want the kumbaya in the office all day long. There's other people that want to go and attend every training every single day and just be part of that crowd and gain as much knowledge as possible, but they're going to close 4 deals this year. There's other people that want, the business aspect of it. And how do I grow a team of 20 as quickly as possible and close 500 deals in the next 5 years, like us? So you have to go and find what brokerage is going to give you those leverage pieces so you can go as fast as you want to go. There is no right or wrong answer. I think the biggest thing that we have to tell people is you have to do your homework. You have to stop and think before you go join a brokerage and say, what do I want from this relationship? Because they're going to take a great big chunk of your money. Or the ones that don't take any of your money, they're not going to give you anything either. You're just going to hang on to, you're going to be all on your own. So that's the mystery of this. And the public does absolutely nothing for new agents to tell them how to start thinking about this before they step in with someone. And that's what we're going to do a really good job at, I believe, when we start teaching these classes in the fall as well. I think that's really important because I'm going to make sure that's a big thing we teach.
Yeah, totally. And I know I said this once before, but at the end of the day, if you're new and getting your license or in the process of getting a license, you have to decide what's important to you. And you say, well, I don't know. What do you mean? What's important to me? But I think there are some things that you can understand just from a human level in terms of, what values do you hold most dear? For instance, when you and I started our team, Ryan, one of our values was collaboration. Right. And that is so important to us. And so when we joined EXP, all of what we found were collaborators everywhere. Right. There were people who were willing to share, help us grow. Here's how you get into this vertical business. Here's how you grow. Here's how you develop leads. Here's how you should look at lead sources. And so, I think you have to take a step back and take perspective and say, what's most important to you in terms of values? I think you can also check your energy. Right. And say, in terms of, where do I find my most energy? Some people are totally fine. I saw someone post about a cloud-based business in here, asked a question about cloud-based business. You may be totally fine to work from home and do that on a day-to-day basis, right? Whereas someone else may say, I need to be in an office environment. I get energy from being around other people. Right. And so I think there are a couple of things just from a human level or a business level that you can step back and say, hey, what is it that, that is really important to me? And then what are the things that you like and don't like? If some brokerages require you to be in some training program, that they say, oh, we have this productivity coach, right? And it's just another chunk of change that they're going to take out of your pocket when in reality, they should be doing that stuff for free to help get you going there. And so you have to figure out what is it that you like, what don't you like, and what do you want? And then go find someone that has that, right? And I heard someone in life one time, they say, define what you want, define what you want in life and go out and find someone who has it and then do what they did, right? And that's kind of a little bit of a success principle there. And I think if you start from that and saying, hey, this is what I want, you go find someone who's doing that. I want to sell 24 houses in a year, right? I want to be able to take, 3 to 4 weeks off, right? And I want to net $150,000, right? Well, go find someone who's got that business and is doing that, and ask them, teach me, right? Partner with me. How do we actually get through this? And how do I get to my future? Do I have that bright future to where I'm selling 24 deals and I'm, netting $100,000+, or whatever that number is. But I think it ultimately starts with you deciding, what is that is most important to you, right? So define what you want first and what you're looking for and what you value. Then go find a brokerage or person or team that matches that and is willing to share with you. And then most importantly, do what they tell you, right? Don't mix up the recipe. It's not an ad hoc, right? I'll take some of this, I'll take some of that. It's if you dilute that, right, then your results are going to be diluted, right? So I always say, like we talk with guys who have come onto our team, we say, listen, do it our way for 12 months. Right. And at the end of those 12 months, if you haven't made X number of dollars and you don't feel like you're set up for success over the next 24 months, right, then bounce or do it your way, right? Or do it our way, have success. And then once you have that success, then you can say, hey, what if we change this or do that, right? But first, learn the track.
I think what I've noticed with EXP that is important is, the cloud-based environment, you can always find every resource you possibly want 24/7. With classes and all kinds of opportunities to help you move your business forward quickly. What I think people should think about is all those people that are in the office all the time are not the people out there closing business, because the majority of realtors need to be out in the field closing deals, talking to people, meeting, kissing babies, the whole 9 yards. So keep that in mind for anyone that's thinking about getting into this and what brokerage to join is use the one that gives you the most resources to build your business as quickly as possible. I think that's what EXP provides that the other brokerages do not, because all that stuff is online. You go into the world and it's always there. You can go into a room 24/7 and find what you want. So that's an important thing to remember.
Well, we're talking about defining it, right? The first thing I would ask someone is, tell me what you'd love for your business to look like in 3 years, right? And then you start to kind of work from that aspect there.
Listen, I don't know. That's the thing. They don't know. They don't know what they want their business to look like in 3 years because they haven't been taught anything other than ingress and egress and how many square foot in an acre. So I mean, they really have no idea.
I hear you. At the same time, I would also challenge, right? Tell me how much. You could start with simply how much money would you like to make?
There you
right?
go.
What are you looking to net? How many families would you like to? Well, I guess you can even ask that. They may say,
what matters most? Where's my money? Where's my money? That's what they're doing this for the most part. Is they're wanting to earn a living on some level. Not many of them are just straight part-time. Like, I sell one, it's fine. I sell 20, it's great too.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So you start with that. How much money do you want to make? And then you break that down and look at that, start to walk through those models, with that there. So, but again, that's what this is all about, right? How do you figure out your future from where you're at today? Right. I think part of it is defining, what do you want your life to look like? Hey, if at the end of 1 year, year one, I made X number of dollars, I'm going to be thrilled. Right. Year number 2, year number 3, and so on. And then you go out and you find somebody who can help you do that. Right. But I think it starts with defining, at least on a basic level. Hey, how much money would you have to make in order for you to call year one a success?
And the other thing that is important to go right along with that is, how do you want to make that money? Because, the other thing they don't talk about through the licensing courses or anything else, unless you go on YouTube and watch a lot, is how do I generate business? How do I make it so in, 5 years from now, I've got a healthy 30, 40, if I'm going to be a solo agent, 50 a deal a year type of business that's really going to provide for my family. They don't talk about that a lot. So I think that's the other big thing that people need to ask the question of, what am I comfortable doing in order to generate business? Am I good cold calling? Am I good with calling for sale by owners and expireds? I'm okay sitting at a coffee shop and everyone that walks in the door that day, I'm going to buy them coffee and get their name, phone number, and email and follow up with them after. I've got a database of 1,000 people on Facebook and I'm going to message each one of them individually and say who I am. I'm going to pick up my phone and just call A to Z, whoever's in my phone, and tell them what I'm doing in this business. I mean, the reality is everything I just said takes, for lack of better words, takes some balls. Like, you got to step up and, actually do it. And you have to get out of your comfort zone and be comfortable talking to people. But a lot of people get into this business and don't understand that that's what it takes. That it isn't just your mom and your sister and your aunt and uncle. You can build a business that way, but it's going to take a long time, a really long time. So being intentional with how you're going to build it as well. Not only what the financial aspect is, but in order to get there, what are the actions I have to take that I'm comfortable doing based on my personality? Because, there's things, and we've talked about this on our team, there's things I can do for 2 weeks, 2 months, or maybe 2 years. But at the end of that, like, I'm done. Like, that does not jive with me naturally. And I have to pivot to do something that will. And people have to be honest with themselves, what they are actually willing to do to lead generate to build their business. And I think that's another big one that they don't talk about through the pre-licensing course or anything else that's just evident when you start out in this business.
Well, this is a contact sport, pun intended, right? You have to reach out and be in contact with your people, right? And you make a good point, right? So what people are you going to be in contact with? First, it has to be consistent, right? You mentioned that, right? It's got to be a consistent effort over time, right? It's not, you don't call somebody one time like, oh, Ryan called me, asked, hey, am I looking to buy or sell this year at all? Because he just got his real estate license. Let me make a mental log, and then every single time I ever think about real estate, I'm going to think about Ryan, and I will call Ryan, because that's how it happens, right? No, it doesn't happen like that, right? You have to call over and over and over again. We always talk to our team. When do you know when someone is ready to buy or sell? You don't. You have to constantly be in there, right? Because I think it takes years and years and years and multiple transactions before someone does what they do to you all the time, Ryan, which is, let me pick up the phone and let me call Ryan because I know he's my real estate guy. Now, that didn't happen after 1 or 2 phone calls, did it, Ryan?
No, not at all.
No, it was years of
sometimes,
you building your,
but not often.
Sometimes, but well, I mean, your mom doesn't really count, Ryan, so chill out. But it is about the bigger, the consistent scale of that. There's my mom. it's about the consistent scale of that, of saying, hey, I need to be consistent with this over years of time. And then I have earned the right, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that takes time, right? And that is consistent messaging. Most people say, oh, that's great, Ryan, you got your real estate license. Inside, they might be thinking, let me see if he sticks with this. Right? You know, when you've done it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, well, now all of a sudden, Ryan, you can wake up, you could stop advertising, stop marketing, you could not do anything else, Ryan. And over the next 2 years, how many deals would you close if you never picked up the phone at this point?
Probably 80.
Yeah, exactly. I would say you would easily close 30 to 40 deals every year, right?
Yep.
It would probably trickle off if you didn't stay as consistent.
Yeah, if you're not intentional about what you're asking for. You always, again, finish every conversation with, who do you know I need to talk to?
I'd be willing to bet if you never made a phone call, though, at least for the next couple of years, you could close 60 to 80 deals without even trying.
For sure.
But
for sure,
that's 7 to 10 years of building this thing and putting that in people's mind, you know, and saying, hey, this is who Ryan is, and showing up and delivering on that. The other thing I'd say is also find your unique value proposition, or the things that you like to do, right? I've talked before, go close 25 deals through a yoga class, right? You know, if you love yoga, go to a new yoga studio.
Find your niche.
Yeah, it's niche. That was the word I was looking for, right? What is your unique niche, right? If you like yoga, go do yoga 5 days a week, and every single time, make sure you're getting a new name and phone number and having some type of conversation, or inviting someone, hey, you want to grab coffee next door? Man, this is a great workout, and start to get to know people, right? But, you know, you could write that book in 24 months, how I closed 20 deals going to yoga class every day. Right. But that's the thing, is that you're going to do business with people that know you, like you, and trust you. And those people will fall into the same circles of the things that you like to do. But you have to be intentional with the conversation.
And anyone that's listening to this as well, you need to go research what's called the language of sales. That is the number one thing that will help you get intentional with what you're saying to people, so it leads to a result. That doesn't mean that you're putting anyone in a bad position, or that you have to be all salesy, but you know, you have to internalize the things that make people remember you, and you want them to say yes to you. You want them to commit to giving you a referral, and you don't have to be a bully about it, but you need to ask those leading questions to get the yeses and the agreement on the end of statements. So when you continue to grow your business, you know it's going to come from those people that like, know, and trust you, because you can ask them for business directly, and they know that. And that comes through practicing what you are saying and how you're saying it and when you're saying it. So the language of sales is one of those things that I think people should go out and research. Like what we do, we practice all the time with what we say. Even what we're doing right now is practice, you know? So, yeah.
Exactly.
That's what gets you to the finish line.
What was it? Abraham Lincoln when said, you know, hey, if you're going to go chop down a tree or something, you know, what would you do? And he said, you know, for 8 hours, he said, I'd sharpen my axe for 6 of them. You know, and that's the whole point, right? You know, I mean, we've got a group here where, you know, we're doing daily scripting, weekly scripting, monthly scripting, you know, in terms of, you know, this is what a conversation looks like and should flow like when you're having real estate related, you know, conversations with people, you know, but you have to be intentional with practicing and sharpening your sword to be ready for those conversations. As I always said, I'd much rather, you know, be prepared and not have opportunity than have opportunity and not be prepared. And that comes through practice, repetition, right? You know, and so you're right, learning what to say, when to say it, and what cues to look for, you know, when you're having conversation with somebody are so important.
The other thing I noticed that Sam had written here, and it's really true, it's important to make sure the people you work around at the brokerage have good intentions in everything they do, while also having growth mindset. I say that because without those things, there's only so far someone can go. And that's all parts of life, honestly. You are what you surround yourself with, and that's something to keep in mind. Is when you walk into a place and you're thinking about joining a brokerage, what does the crowd look like? What is the success of those people? How long have they been there? You know, there might be 20 people in that room, but they might have joined 3 days ago, and they're going to be gone in 6.
Well, good. So there's my question, Ryan. How do you identify that, right? You know, how do you identify those things? If I'm brand new, they say you go into an office and they walk you around, you know, this you know, it's got all these posters on the wall, and, you know, here's my Y4C2Ts and our mission statement, and look how bad we are, and here's this agent who's making millions, and this agent who's making millions, and this agent, and they're all so nice and positive. And then you get in there and no one's really willing to collaborate or help, right? Or they give you some nickel dime stuff, you know. How do you really dig into that and say, hey, show me someone, you know, I guess I'm kind of giving you the answer, right? You know, because that's what I would do. Show me someone who's been with you for 12 or 24 months who has sold 12 homes, right? Because I know that's what we could do.
Yeah, I wouldn't walk in and just make a decision in a day either. You know, I've learned that you have to build these relationships over the course of time. And just like our move from KW to EXP took 2 years,
Yeah.
and maybe it shouldn't have taken that long, but at the same time, we were doing our homework. We were having conversations with other people that had already made the move or been there for a period of time to understand what their success has been, what their experience has been. And so I think that's the most important thing, is take your time and talk to people. What's your experience been like over the last 3 years of being here? And or how long have you been here, and what are things that you think this has really helped you do in growing your business? You'll find out really quickly, you know, if it's a place you want to be or not. So that's what I would do, is take your time. Ask questions, have some meetings, take people to lunch for a minute, grab coffee with them, whatever. Sit down and just get real about it. Again, this comes down to having conversation. It's the more than get into this, it's all about how intentional you can be with the conversations you have, and just be real about it, and don't sugarcoat anything, and ask what's on your mind. You got nothing to hide, and people will give you everything you want and more if you just ask. So, yeah.
We've got maybe another minute or two left before we close out, this another mastermind call here. I am curious if we were to leave these guys with, I don't know, 2 or 3 tips in terms of, their future. What would be some things that maybe you would leave them with, Ryan?
I would say get intentional with your calendar immediately. You got to put your time on there to lead generate at least 3 hours a day. You need to have at least 20 conversations every day related to real estate, and they all need to end with, who do you know that I need to talk to that might be thinking about a move? Because the last thing I want to hear is you or someone else having a bad experience because you didn't hire a professional like me to make sure you get where you need to go. So I think intentional conversation, I think keeping really intentional to your calendar, and then tracking your results. That's super important too. Know what has led to your success. Those would be the 3 things I would tell people right away. I think the tracking part is one of the hardest things to do for me naturally, but we have learned that by doing so, it really gives us an idea. You speak more confidently about your business and what you're doing as well when you know your numbers. So those would be the 3 things that come right off the top of my head. There's a million and one others, but feel free to give me a shout and I'll tell you more.
Yeah, no, I agree. One of the things I wrote down was, first off, make a list. Right? If you're studying for your exam right now, taking your exam, or if you have already passed your exam, the very first thing you need to do is make a list of every single person that you know, right? And there needs to be 3 columns, right? Or 4 columns, right? You have a name, what's their email, what's their phone number, and what's their address, right? And start with that. Get an Excel spreadsheet going. To me, everyone should have a minimum of 100 people that they know, right? Whether, because I don't care if you're young, then who are your parents? Who do your parents know, right? Who's your doctor? Who's your grocery person, who checks you out? Who works, at all the, who does your nails? All those things. Who's your barber, right? You should be able to make a list of 100 people and start with that, right? Because that's the first thing. Second thing, I do agree, it's about running your calendar, not allowing things to run you, but you run your life. We all have 24 hours in a day. The question is, what are you going to do with those 24 hours? It's about being intentional with them. So make sure that you have a calendar. I don't care if you use Google Calendar, Outlook, or you use a paper calendar, right? But you have to have a calendar and be intentional with your time. The third thing is script practice, right? I think you should be practicing what to say, how to say it, who to say it to, right? What things should you be offering? What value can you offer? How do you talk through a buyer consult with someone? How do you talk through a listing consult with someone? What things need to be mentioned? Fourth is what you said, Ryan. I do agree. You need to track your numbers. Right? How many calls does it actually take for you to find someone who's interested, right? Because this is just like baseball, right? It's all about the numbers. You can go up, and if you strike out 7 out of 10 times, what do they call you, Ryan? A Hall of Famer.
I don't know.
A Hall of Famer, homie.
You're batting 300.
Right? You bat 300, right? You strike out
7
7 out of 10 times, they call you a Hall of Famer, batting 300 in life, right? And that's what this game is all about. I can't tell you, we get proportionally more no's than yeses, right? But I mean, for us, right, over the years, we've built this based on a sphere, right? So it's not really even no, it's just conversation that we're having on a consistent basis, providing value, explaining what's going on in a crazy market like this, what's going on in a buyer's market, what's going on in a seller's market, just walking people through what's happening in that moment. And then the last thing I wrote down, get a coach. Find a mentor, get a coach, get someone who's been there, done that, who can guide you through a lot of these things, right? And kind of keep you from stepping, into some of these pitfalls here. So those are my 5 tips. I know some overlap with you, but I'd love to share more on this. As Ryan and I have said, we are an open book. We'll put our information into the chat. You can reach out to us via phone. We'll put our cell phones in there. We'll put our emails in there. But we are an open book. We are not hard to find. We are old people, so you can find us on Facebook. We're Gen X's, so we're also kind of on Instagram, and we got a really young team, so you can probably find us on TikTok, but not very much there. We are not that hard to find, and we truly are an open book. We're more than happy to share with anybody. Any final thoughts, Ryan, before we close this out?
No, you said it all, man. This is good stuff.
Hey, man, we appreciate all you guys joining, showing up, and we look forward to doing this again next week, or 2 weeks, I guess. The second and fourth Tuesdays of every month, 9 a.m. We'll see you guys then.
Awesome. See you.